Sometime in the 3rd century BC, an unknown author wrote the following: "The man who does not understand geometry has no right to call himself a Greek." We don't know who the author was, but we do know that this quote perfectly captured the essence of one of ancient Greece's greatest achievements, which was discovering the secrets of the cosmos. In my last video, we discussed how the Greeks discovered that the Earth was a sphere. And in doing so, they also created many new tools of mathematics and science to help them achieve their goal. Without their generous support, this channel would not be possible. So please consider supporting us as well. Now back to the story. This understanding was crucial for their navigation across the seas, as well as for their understanding of the cosmos. Unlike many of his contemporaries, we know very little about Geminus' life. Aristarchus argued that the Earth was not the center of the universe, but rather the Sun. Unfortunately, Aristarchus's work was largely ignored during his lifetime, but Geminus picked up where his teacher left off and built on his ideas. In his book, he argued that the Sun was not just the center of the solar system, but also the center of the Milky Way. This observation led him to conclude that the Sun must be located to the south of the Earth. He also noted that the length of a day and night varies throughout the year, which he explained by the Earth's changing distance from the Sun. He was the first to calculate the distance between the Earth and the Moon, as well as the circumference of the Earth. While Ptolemy did make some contributions to astronomy, he is best known for his geocentric model of the universe, which placed the Earth at the center of the solar system. Despite the fact that Ptolemy's model was ultimately proven to be incorrect, it was still a significant achievement. His model of the solar system was based on observation rather than mathematics, and it lacked the precision that Ptolemy would later achieve. His name, for example, is not mentioned in any ancient Greek sources, and our knowledge of his work comes entirely from the Bononania Manuscript. His heliocentric model of the solar system, based on observation and reason, was a radical departure from the prevailing geocentric view. Although his work was not widely recognized in his lifetime, it laid the foundation for later astronomers such as Posidonius and Ptolemy. Geminus's legacy lives on in the scientific method, which emphasizes observation and reason as the basis for understanding the natural world. His work serves as a reminder that scientific progress often goes through periods of obscurity and that the pursuit of knowledge requires patience and perseverance. Most of what we know about him is based on the work of later astronomers who either cited him directly or whose work was clearly influenced by his ideas. Additionally, Geminus's work was largely unknown outside of Alexandria, and it would not be rediscovered until the Renaissance. His work was based on observation and reason rather than speculation or mythology, and it represented a significant step forward in the development of astronomy. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our future videos. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep looking up. His work laid the foundation for the scientific revolution that would take place in the 16th and 17th centuries, which would eventually lead to the heliocentric model being widely accepted. These arguments may seem obvious today, but they were revolutionary at the time. He based this argument on his observations of the stars, which he believed were fixed in place on a sphere around the Sun. It is possible that Geminus's work was known to Ptolemy and that he took some of his ideas, such as his model of the solar system, and incorporated them into his own work. However, there is no evidence that Ptolemy ever mentioned Geminus by name or cited his work. This lack of recognition may have been due to the fact that Ptolemy was more interested in developing a mathematical theory of astronomy than in making empirical observations. This idea was similar to that of Aristarchus, but Geminus took it a step further by providing evidence for it. But we know a lot about his work, which was collected in a book called the Bononania Manuscript. According to Geminus, the Sun was at the center of the universe and the Earth and other planets revolved around it. This was a radical idea at the time, as the prevailing belief was that the Earth was the center of the universe. But Geminus was not the only one who believed in a heliocentric model. Other Greek astronomers such as Philolaus of Croton and Heraclides Ponticus also shared this view. The Bononania Manuscript was a compilation of astronomical data that Geminus collected over several years. It included tables of planetary positions as well as descriptions of eclipses and other celestial phenomena. What makes the Bononania Manuscript so important is that it represents the first attempt to systematically study the cosmos. One of his followers was Posidonius, who was a philosopher and astronomer. Posidonius built on Geminus's work and developed his own model of the solar system. He believed that the Earth and other planets revolved around the Sun, which was located in the center of a rotating sphere. Posidonius also believed that the stars were fixed on this sphere and that the Earth moved around the Sun in a circular path. The most important tool for the Greeks in their study of the stars was the Astrolabe, which was a device used for measuring the positions of celestial bodies. But what they lacked in technology, they more than made up for with pure intellectual power. So join us today as we discover the legacy of Geminus of Rhodes, whose pioneering work laid the foundation for astronomy. But once they knew for a fact that the Earth was a sphere, what did they do next? They wanted to understand if other objects in the sky were also spheres. More importantly, they wanted to find out if the celestial sphere, or the dome of the heavens, was indeed a perfect sphere, and if so, what was it made of? To answer these questions, the Greeks turned to the stars and the planets. To better understand the cosmos, these Greeks didn't have a telescope or even glasses for that matter. But before we begin our story, let's take a moment to appreciate the support we get from our patrons. By the 3rd century BC, the Greeks had begun to catalog the stars and had started to understand their positions relative to each other. One of the first Greek astronomers to use the astrolabe was Geminus of Rhodes. Geminus's work was based on the teachings of his teacher, Aristarchus of Samos, who was one of the first Greek astronomers to propose a heliocentric model of the universe. One of the key features of the Bononania Manuscript is its description of the solar system. However, it was Geminus who made the most significant contribution to the development of heliocentrism. One of the pieces of evidence Geminus used to support his heliocentric model was the fact that the sun never sets in the summer solstice. Geminus's heliocentric model was not universally accepted, but it did have its supporters. Unfortunately, much of Posidonius' work was lost, but what remains shows that he was a brilliant astronomer in his own right. After Posidonius, the mantle of advancing astronomy was taken by none other than Ptolemy, whose work would become the standard for the next 1,400 years. What's interesting is that both Geminus and Ptolemy lived in Alexandria, Egypt, which was home to one of the largest and most important libraries in the ancient world. And here's why. You see, while Geminus had made significant contributions to astronomy, his work was not without its limitations. As for Geminus himself, we know very little about his life. In conclusion, Geminus of Rhodes was a pioneer in the field of astronomy who made significant contributions to our understanding of the cosmos. That concludes our journey through the fascinating life and work of Geminus of Rhodes.